So I just picked up an order from our supplier today. So Thursday. Today's Wednesday. No, today's Thursday. It's about 8:30. So I'm going to be spending the next 4 to 5 hours getting about 550 plants settled in the tank for the weekend, and then a bunch of them are going to be sent out on Monday to people that already ordered stuff. So I'm going to go through a bit of the process involved in that over the next little while. Here we've got some jungle valves. I think I brought in about 40 portions this time. A bunch of them are already sold, maybe 12 left on the site, I'm not sure. But this is what they look like. Alright folks, that's 40 bundles of jungle valves, debundled and individually planted. So that's 120 different plants there. I sell them by the bundle, I think $5.99 or something for 3 or whatever. But Christ, that took me about half an hour and I'm pouring sweat. This isn't a hobby, this is a sport, my friends. Well, I got the camera rolling. I brought in a load of snails this time as well. These are the ivory mystery snails. They're pretty big, just getting settled in. And I also have the tiger eye nerite algae eating snails. That's those. These are the that's kind of a crappy picture there. Hang on. These are the albino mystery snails. And these are the golden mystery snails. And the black, kind of out of focus there, but whatever. Black mystery snails. Okay, moving on, we got some crypts to unpack here. We've got crypt balance, crypt pechi, and crypt retrospiralis. These are all very hardy crypts, and they don't seem to succumb to the melting that normally accompanies some of the other common crypts, crypt brown, red, green, etc. These seem to ship pretty well, and they seem to stay pretty much as you see them here. Very easy, low light, undemanding plant. Here's a picture of glossostigma that we got in this time. This time we got them in bunches. Sometimes we get them in pots, sometimes we get them in bunches. You tend to get a little bit more plants if you get them in the bunches than you do in the pots. And it's a little bit easier to plant too, because you don't have to take them out of the pots to plant them. This is a hornwort. We always have this in stock. This one's always a bit of a conundrum for me because I have to order about 12 of them at a time, and they give me so much of it usually that I have trouble finding room for it. Luckily most of this is already sold, so it'll go out the door on Monday. But you can see these are really nice and healthy portions of hornwort. Very easy plant, floating plant, or you can stick it in the substrate, doesn't matter. Next up we got some water sprite. This is the lacy version, so the leaves are a lot thinner than traditional water sprite. Another very, very easy plant to grow, and this is pretty tall already. Next up we have some moneywort. This is the first time I've brought in this plant, and it came in really nice and green, very healthy stems. Very similar to pennywort, or not pennywort, similar to baby tears maybe, a little bit bigger. Giant baby tears is what I'm talking about, but fairly easy stem plant. And here's a shot of the moneywort in the tank. Here's some Ammonia grassus. This is a beautiful red plant, completely red plant when it's grown under in good lighting conditions. If you look at one of my previous videos, you can see Ammonia in the background there. Really nice plant. Here we have some Anacharis najas. This is sort of similar to the Egeria densa, but a lot thinner. The leaves are a lot finer and thinner. This was a really good shipment. This came in really super green. Sometimes I have issues with this one, but not this time. This is beautiful stuff. Here's our shipment of Cryptocoin Wendatai. You won't know by looking at it, but that is the red, brown, and green. Obviously, these are grown immersed out of water, so you're not going to see what it's actually going to look like when it grows in your tank. A lot of the leaves that are on there right now, when you put it in your tank, they're going to lose those leaves and grow new ones which are closer to the actual colors of the crypt. But this is what they look like right now. Some Ludwigia perenensis. It's a nice reddish plant. This is water sprite Indian lace. It's pretty massive actually. I'm not sure why it's so big, but probably if you're getting this, you'd want to cut this down quite a bit. You can see the stems are pretty long and leggy for whatever reason, but this thing grows pretty fast. Just cut it off wherever you want and replant it and keep it at the size of your liking. So we have some Myrio green, similar in appearance to hornwort, kabomba, that type of plant. I'll put it in the tank. Here's what the Myrio green looks like in the tank. Another fairly easy stem plant. As previously, here's the moneywort, Ammonia. It's going to look a lot nicer in about 3 weeks or so. And Ludwigia perenensis. I brought in 3 crinium. Not sure how to say this. Calamistrotum. These are actually really expensive. The most expensive plant I've come across so far. I don't mark these up too much, but they are $9.99 each, I think. But beautiful plant. Another really popular plant with us is microsword. Fairly good, a good foreground plant. Nice grassy style. Not terribly demanding. I mean, if you want it to grow really well, you need to have a good substrate. It's a root, any sort of foreground plant, dwarf hairgrass, microsword, glosso, whatever the case. Some of them will do really well, but they need a good substrate, a good nutrient-based substrate, so that they can send off runners. If not, they will exist basically in their current state for the most part. So if you can, use a good substrate, use some substrate fertilizers if necessary, but these are what you would call root feeding plants. Another plant that we keep in stock pretty much all the time is Amazon swords. They're a very popular sword plant. Thing to keep in mind with Amazon swords, or pretty much any other sword plant of the Echinodorus species, is in the greenhouse they typically grow these plants out of the water, immersed. So the leaves are going to look a little bit different. You can see here the leaves are, although they're very healthy and everything, they're green. They're round, which is not normally what an Amazon sword would look like. I'll show you what they will end up looking like. Here's what your Amazon sword will end up looking like once it starts growing. The more traditional, long, thinner type of leaves will grow out of those plants. Another plant we always have in stock, and which is tremendously popular, dwarf Sagittarius oblata. Very easy foreground plant. Again, if you know, it tends to do better in a nicer substrate, but this is one of the more easier foreground plants. The size you're seeing it right now, look, it's actually a little bit bigger than it would normally be once it starts growing in your tank. Again, nursery conditions are a little bit different than aquarium conditions. In my experience, once it's established in your tank, it's going to be a lot smaller and lower to the ground than it is what you're seeing here. Brought in 70 of these this time. I think probably about 40 of them are already will be out the door on Monday. Another Vallisneria variety, contortion val. This one has a nice sort of a spirally type of leaf to it. These are Italian Vallisneria, similar to jungle val in terms of height. These ones, depends on the shipment I get. These ones are pretty big, a couple feet it looks like, anyways, at least. But their leaves are a lot thinner than the jungle vals. That's basically the difference that I can see in them. And they come 3 per bunch. Yeah, we got some dwarf baby tears on lava rock. This is a nice option that I've started selling recently. It's a nice plug and play option for this plant because it's the dwarf baby tears is a really hard plant to establish because it's so small. This one, it comes on a rock. You just got to plop it into your aquarium, and that's about it. Again, it's dwarf baby tears, a very demanding plant. Please do your research on this plant before you purchase it. Next up, we got some melon swords. These ones have sort of a reddish color to them. Again, you can see some of them. Some of the leaves are immersed, and some of them are starting to grow their normal aquarium-like leaves, like this one here is a bit reddish, and this is obviously an immersed leaf which will die off. This is what the normal leaf looks like. So it depends when I get the plant, what stage of development they're at. The most important thing to keep in mind is whether they're healthy to begin with. Immersed or submerged doesn't really matter. As long as they're healthy plants, they'll turn out good in the end. Okay, another all-time favorite foreground plant, dwarf hairgrass. Everybody loves it. It's hard to tell what it looks like when it's out of the water because it scrunches up and kind of looks like crap. If I get a chance, I'll show you what it looks like in the water. You'll probably notice these are not potted. These are just loose. And if you go to any pet store, you'll probably notice they are potted. One of the things I like about this is dwarf hairgrass is very difficult to get out of that pot. The pot itself doesn't really provide any sort of functionality other than make it look nice at the pet store. But when you get it home, you typically have to take it out of that pot and plant and take apart the clumps and try to get all that stuff out of there in order to plant it. So I much prefer it this way, and this is how I send it to you. To plant it, you just pull apart little pieces of it, planted in the area that you want it to grow, and that's about it. Alright folks, we're approaching midnight here, so I've been at this about almost 4 hours. So please excuse me if I sound a little bit out of sorts. And I've still got a couple hours to go here, it looks like. Anyways, here we have some cardamine. It's a stem plant similar to pennywort. Not quite as hardy as pennywort. It's a little bit more difficult and a little slower growing, I think, than pennywort, but it's got the same sort of idea in terms of the leaves. The little leaves are a little bit more of a unique shape than pennywort, but nice plant. It's cardamine. Up next, this is one we usually keep in stock pretty much all the time. This is the banana plant. It's a lily-like plant, and I guess it's called bananas because it's got this funny little root structure kind of deal at the bottom here that kind of look like a bunch of bananas, I guess. And then sort of a lily pad. I'm trying to find. They usually don't come in with too much on them yet, but they grow pretty fast, and they're simple, simple plants to grow, fairly cheap too. This is what it looks like. Actually, under I don't have one. They're all gone. Under some decent light, actually, they can turn different colors too, red and brownish color. Looks pretty cool plant. A nice. Doesn't get too tall either. It's or the like other lily plants. It keeps it pretty small. So it's a good foreground plant. With every shipment, we bring in dwarf baby tears, HC. This is not a plant that we keep in stock. It's a very difficult plant, and it really needs to be in the aquascape pretty much right away. It just doesn't, even though I've got high-tech setups here, you really got to plant it into the substrate and all that kind of stuff. So I pretty much bring this in just on demand. I bring in maybe a few extra pots with an order to have on hand, but it's not something, I don't order a whole bunch of it just out of to keep in stock. So basically every couple of weeks I'll bring some in, and this is all, most of this is going out on Monday. And then the other potted one I have is Crypt Parva. This is a nice small crypt. I think I got about 10 pots of that, all available. Alright folks, the marathon continues. What time are we at here? 12:31. This is our last group of stem plants, and then we've just got a bunch of anubias to do. It's hard to tell what these look like just by laying them out here, but we got some red myrio there, we got some ambulia, green temple hygro, crypt blassie, and some red kabomba. I am running out of space. And last but not least, we brought in a full complement of anubias this time. We got anubia nana, nanji, aphyzelli, congensis, minima, lancetota, barderi, nana petite, fraseri, and coffeefolia. So I will be busy for the next little while sorting out my anubias tank, and that will be the end of my day, hopefully.